Hello friends, this is mrs.Bhavana Vibhute welcomes you again in my YouTube channel. Enjoy learning. Friends, in the textbook of 12th standard, the fourth and the last section is novel genre. And today we are going to discuss about the history of novel. So let's start history of novel because it is a little bit vast unit. So without wasting time, we are going to start history of novel. Friends, novel and periodic essay introduced in 18th century in English literature. Novel is a long narrative fiction describing human experiences in a prose form. Word novel is actually derived from Italian word novella. It means new. Novel narrates a story with more details of place, nature, people, love, time, etc. etc. And it is easier than a form of drama or poetry because the narrator clears all the concepts or all the ideas in novel. But in drama or poetry, the ideas are not very clear and we ourselves have to conclude or understand the meanings or the theme or the ideas by ourselves. Now, let's discuss about the history of novel. In 2nd to 6th century, the Greek romances and the imaginative and delightful stories of ideal love and marvelous adventures are the precursors of novel, which affected the writing for the next 1,000 years. Tone of novel can be traced in works of ancient writers and their works like Virgil's Eclogues and Georgics, Thomas Marlowe's Maud d'Arthur, Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. Japanese novelist Murasaki Shikibu's Tale of Genji, written in 1010 DC, has been described as the world's first novel. The Tale of Genji centers on the life and love of a handsome son, Hikaru Genji, born to an emperor during the Heian period. In this story, the beloved concubine of the emperor gives birth to Genji and dies soon after. Then the European novel begins with Don Quixote, written by Miguel de Cervantes. He was a Spanish writer. In old syllabus of 8th standard, we have already studied a small chapter of Don Quixote. It was published into 2 parts. First part in 1605 and second part in 1650. In 18th century, readers were attracted towards magazines, newspapers, and that is why they had a little bit interest in all such novels full of romances, adventures, etc. because they had become a little bit practical and they came in the touch of practical world. In England, novel originated as the literary form in 17th century. Novel was designed to focus on the life of lower classes and middle classes with their longings and daily works. In 18th century, novel was the prominent form of writing, including social, political, cultural happenings and scientific progress of that time. The initiators of the plenteous and colorful tradition of English novel are John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress in 1678, Afra Bain's Oronoku in 1688, Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe and Mal Flanders, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. It's a famous satire. Now let's see the other major novelists of 18th century. Samuel Richardson, his Pamela or Virtue Rewarded, and Clarissa, both are epistolary novels. Then Henry Fielding, Lawrence Sterne, Toby Smollett, and Horace Walpole. Some more major novelists of 18th century are also there. Walter Scott, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Thomas Hardy, H.G. Wells, Wilkie Collins are the names which are regarded as major novelists of 18th century. Now let's see some names of the modern novelists of 20th century, which is marked by the modern topics and innovative styles and techniques and widened angles. They widened the circumferences of this genre novel by writing political, social, psychological, cultural, and other modern issues in their novel. The names of those novelists are E.M. Forster, James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, Henry James, George Orwell, Graham Greene, D.H. Lawrence, William Golding, and Anthony Burgess. As well as some immigrant authors or novelists are also there. Salman Rushdie from India, V.S. Naipaul from Trinidad, and Kazuo Ishiguro from Japan. How can we complete this long list of authors or novelists without the contribution of women novelists? So, let's take a glance on the list of women novelists. Frances Burney, her works are Evelina and the Novel of Manners. Anne Radcliffe, famous for her Gothic novels. Mary Shelley for Frankenstein. Frankenstein is the novel based on the science of that age. Jane Austen was there. Emily Bront and Charlotte Bronte sisters, famous for Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. Then George Eliot, whose nickname was Mary Ann Evans, her novels reflecting psychological insight. One more prominent name is there, Virginia Woolf, who was the pioneer of the stream of consciousness technique in English novel. Agatha Christie, who was well known for her novels based on crime. Poirot and Miss Marple both were known for their evergreen detective novels. Some names are also there, Harper Lee and Margaret Atwood, Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. So, these are the foreign novelists. Let's turn towards the Indian scenario. Rajmohan's Wife by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay is the first novel in English written by an Indian. It was serialized in the Indian field. For the Indian novelist, main framework or we can call theme of the novel was either nationalistic virtues or social issues. Let's take a glance towards the major novelists who prevailed the novel for the next Indian generation, and they are Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan. A TV serial of R.K. Narayan was very famous based on his Malgudi Days, and Raja Rao. Now, some Indian novelists who changed the current of Indian novel through their style, through their work. Like Anita Desai, Nayantara Sehgal, Manohar Malgaonkar and Arun Joshi. Now let's see the names of some Indian novelists who decorated the Indian novel by adding various features and aspects to it. They are Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, Upamanyu Chatterjee. Friends, there are some novelists who have witnessed the dazzling performances in recent years. They are Salman Rushdie, Arvind Adiga, Arundhati Roy, Kiran Desai, and Kiran Nagarkar. So friends, the tradition of Indian novel has undergone a vital change since its birth, and undoubtedly it has a very, very bright future. Friends, let's discuss about novella. What is a novella? It is a type of prose or a fiction which is shorter than a full novel and longer than a short story. It is short narrative but well structured. Its tone is satiric or realistic. It focuses on one or two incidents with one or two main characters. In this form, story takes place at a single tradition. There is a little bit difference between novel and novella. Novel is a fictional genre that contains longer narrative prose, presenting a lengthy tale or story of imaginary or fictional characters, whereas novella is different from novel in its length, as it is a fictional genre that is longer than a short story and shorter than a full novel. Now let's see some famous names of novella. Joseph Conrad, his famous novella, The Heart of Darkness. Henry James, The Turn of the Screw. Herman Melville for Billy Budd. Thomas Mann, famous for his Death in Venice. And Saul Bellows, Says of the Day. And John Steinbeck's Pearl. So let's discuss about the elements of novel or novella. There are 6 main elements or features of novel or novella. They are: first element of the novel is theme. Theme means central idea in the novel which can be expressed in a nutshell. It is a philosophical statement or truth which the writer has put forth through the narration of the series of events in the story and characters acting in a particular setting. The second element is plot. It is the story or a course of events that make up the theme. It is created by the conflict, either internal, means inside the mind of the character, or external, means with other characters or entities. Plot may be simple, means including one plot, or complex, consisting the interweaving of many subplots. Then the next element of the novel is characters. Characterization is related to the plot and takes place in the course of events. The important character may have been described in its every aspect by the writer. The minor characters are not given much importance. The reader follows the action of one main character throughout the novel. Then the next and fourth element is setting. Setting of the novel is the background in which the story takes place. It includes place, period, time, climate or weather, and also lifestyle. Then the next element of the novel is conflict. It is a struggle between the opposite forces in the story is called conflict. Conflict in the story provides interest and curiosity about the plot. The next and the last element of the novel is language or style. The language and the techniques used by the author for the narration of the course of events is known as style. So friends, these were 6 elements of the main elements of the novel. Now, let's discuss about the types of novels. The first type of novel is realistic novel. This type of novel is also known as novel of manners. The realistic novel is a fiction that gives the effect of realism. The characters in the realistic novel interact with each other and undergo plausible and everyday experiences. Then, second type of novel is picaresque novel. The word picaresque is originated from the Spanish word picaro, which means the rug. A picaresque novel narrates the adventures of the protagonist, who is an eccentric or a disreputable person, in an episodic form. The third type is historical novel. A historical novel is a novel set in a period earlier than that of the writing. Fourth type of novel is epistolary novel. The word epistolary derived from the Latin word epistola, which means a letter. Letters are the most common basis for epistolary novel. Diary entries are also a popular form of this type. Then, the next type is Gothic novel. The novels that include terror, mystery, horror, thriller, supernatural, death or decay, or haunted buildings, ghosts, are called Gothic novels. The next one is autobiographical novel. Autobiography means related to our own life. So, this type of novel is based on the life of the author himself or herself. It may or may not be in the first person narration. The next type is allegorical novel. An allegory is a story that bears more than one level of meaning. The surface meaning of such novel is different from the symbolic meaning of it. The symbolic meaning of an allegory may be political, religious, historical, or philosophical. Then, the next element of novel is Gothic, utopian, or dystopian novel. Utopia is an imaginary community or society possessing the ideal qualities. It means it is a common literary theme, especially in science fiction or speculative fiction. The next type is psychological novel. Psychological novel is the Greek work of fiction that treats the internal life of the protagonist or even the other characters as much as the external factors. The next type of novel is stream of consciousness novel. Stream of consciousness is a phrase coined by William James in his treatise Principles of Psychology in 1890. It means the flow of the thoughts. Incidents in the plot are in the sequence of their occurrences. The novelist narrates them as they enter the mind of the character. And the last type of novel is Bildungsroman novel. The German word Bildungsroman indicates growth. The fictional biography or autobiography is concerned with the growth of the protagonist's childhood to adulthood. So friends, today we have discussed history of novel, elements of novel, and types of novels. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.